is your idea of a diversion?
It's true. I found a link in the sketches of the crime scenes.
All right, let's hear it then. What do you think you found?
I'll tell you if you promise to let me take the case.
Out of the question, Fordham. This is a police matter.
And the police haven't made progress in months. Fordham figured it out in a matter of minutes. Admit it, Snelling. Fordham is your best shot at finding the killer. Are you gonna let your personal differences put the people of this city in danger?
Fine. I'll let you continue to operate as an assistant in this case, if you have actually found something of value. Now, what is this link?
He leaves a single Easter lily at each crime scene. The same type of flowers the burglar in the chum was stealing.
I see. A tenuous link, but plausible. I'll give you until tomorrow afternoon. If you haven't come up with anything,
Snelling looks like he's got a man bun.
Sounds fair to me.
And don't get any clever ideas about leaving town, either.
Come now, would I do something like that?
Fordham, it seems there's no telling what you might do. I'm probably a fool for not clapping you in irons right here and now. When you have something to report, come find me in my office. Don't make me regret this.
Well, that went better than I expected.
Except you're still fired. I didn't have a chance to get him to change his mind.
We'll worry about that after you catch the killer. In the meantime, I could use a drink.
Yeah.
I'll see you later, Fordham.
Well, better get to work then. The clock is ticking.
Okay, so what do we... Reports. Investigate the officers, find the justice killer. Victim name, Hannibal Kirkland. Single gunshot, iron worker. Police found Kirkland in his home after his foreman reported him absent from work. Single gunshot again. Construction worker, single gunshot. Lamplighter. Okay. You're going to save it at this point. Maybe. Can I go back there and save it? Okay, so we've got a few places we can go. We're going to go to the cab depot, where that guy died. Lamplighter, Parliament, bridge construction, or ironworks. Let's go to the cabbie first.
Remember, a black eye is not a badge of honor. Anyone picking a fight will be dismissed immediately. Well, that's hardly any fun, is it?
So we have Herman, got a mechanic.
A good old reliable hansom cab. Nothing fancy, just gets you from point A to point B. The way it should be.
Good evening.
Oh, it's you again. Small world.
Indeed. Mr. Shaw, was it?
That's right. So, what brings you around to the cab depot?
I wanted to ask you some questions if you can spare some time.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Did you know Reggie Willingham?
Reggie? Sure, I knew him. Well, just as rather I didn't.
Oh? Why do you say that?
The man was a bore, a scoundrel, a no-good bounder.
I wish he would tell us how he really felt.
Only reason they kept him on here was because he was a good driver.
So it's fair to say you didn't like him?
Nobody did. When I heard he'd been killed, wasn't exactly a surprise. If I treated people the way he did, I'd surely have a lot of enemies.
Why?
Could you elaborate a bit on Mr. Willingham's behavior?
Oh, he was a proud one. Thought he was God's gift to mankind. Always strutting around, bragging about how many gratuities he'd earned or how many fist fights he'd won against drivers from Phillips. He had the shortest fuse I've ever seen, too. Just looking at him the wrong way could set him off. I'd always laugh to myself when he'd brag about how many women he'd had in a week.
Why is that?
Because it was obvious he had to pay for the pleasure. A man like that isn't going to get a woman otherwise. I may not be a hit with the ladies, but even I know that being a bastard is a surefire way to drive 'em off.
What can you tell me about Colson Cabs?
Not a bad place, really. Only problem is the number of people always coming here for work. Lots of folks think driving a cab is an easy job that anyone can do, but that's not the case. You need to know this city like the back of your hand, and it helps to know how to drive. So
Well, I
we get
think
lots of
it
fellas
would do.
starting here who don't have the slightest clue what they're doing. They don't last long.
What about the automated cabs? Are those a problem for you?
I prefer not to think about those. Coulson has said he's got no plans to replace his fleet, so it's all that matters to me.
Are you familiar with the so-called Justice Killer?
I've heard a few rumors here and there about some murders in the Chum, but I haven't paid them much attention. There's plenty for me to worry about in my own life.
Aren't you concerned for your safety?
Not really. Well, I haven't done anything wrong. So if this loony's going around doing justice, it's nothing for me to worry about.
He makes a good point. I think we need to get a better idea of what exactly these victims did to incur the wrath of our killer.
Are you still living in Pumblechook Place?
I am, sir. Not much has changed, to be honest. None of us have been kicked out yet, so that's good. Don't know what else to tell you, really.
I appreciate your time, sir.
Pleasure's
I
all
was
mine.
trying to remember where we'd met him last, but can't really remember. I'm gonna get some juice or something to drink, so I shall be right back. Right, let's see where we're heading with this investigation.
I thought about a career as a mechanic once. Glad I chose police work. Way less messy.
So did we get anything new from him? Clues? No. Oh, that place is away now. Let's try the lamp depot. He's got red glasses on as well.
You there! What are you doing?
I'm Miles Fordham. I'm trying to find out about...
No time for that now! Get in here and shield your eyes!
I beg your pardon?
Just do it!
What's going on exactly?
Shh! Everything ready, Alex? 3, 2, 1, go! Amazing! It works! It works!
What works?
Etheric lamps! Our experiment was a success!
What exactly have we wandered into here, Miles?
Yeah, exactly what.
Too bad you didn't get a chance to read that sign before their little experiment. It's the bunch of crap they used to build street lamps with. I wouldn't get too close to that thing. It might end up turning you inside out. So this is where all the lamps in the city come from. I can't believe I never bothered finding out before.
Right, let's talk to the
May I ask you
engineer.
a few questions?
Of course! What would you like to know?
Like the quiff.
You worked with a man named Burley Cause, is that right?
Yes, I heard he was killed. Such a senseless tragedy. It's a shame he missed out on our demonstration. He was really interested in etheric technology.
Wasn't he concerned about losing his job to these technological advances?
He had no reason to. It's been made clear to all the workers that there will always be a place for us, even if our jobs are made obsolete. Unlike some other places, we take care of our own here at the Lamplight Depot.
How noble. But I'm pretty sure he's full of more hot air than the HMS Lenore.
Is there anything you know about Mr. Cause's personal life that might be relevant?
No, he was married, but I don't believe he had any children. Oh, and he used to talk about his love for fishing.
Could you give me his home address? Perhaps his wife will be willing to speak with me.
Yes, certainly. He lived at 820 Orchard Avenue, apartment 2A.
Thank you for the information. Do you know any details about Mr. Caus's murder?
Unfortunately, I don't. The police were here asking questions, but they didn't give me many details.
Do you know of anyone who might have wanted him dead?
Not at all. Burley was very friendly, always treated everyone around here with respect. You know, it's sad to think that for all our leaps forward, we're still really just a bunch of savages.
Are you familiar with the Justice Killer?
I've read about it in the newspaper. A horrible business. It makes me wish we could install more street lamps to keep this city safer at night. Someday, I hope to realize that dream. Then we'll really deserve to be called Lamplight City.
You think brighter streets will stop serial murderers?
It's well known that crime rates are lower in Lyon and Worcester, and they have many more street lamps per square mile.
I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of wealth in those areas. Has to be all about the lighting.
You mentioned something about etheric lamps?
Yes! Weren't you paying attention to our demonstration? You have just witnessed history!
What I witnessed was a blinding flash of light.
Exactly! That flash was the result of years of painstaking research and experimentation. It means that not only does ethericity exist, but it can be used as a source of illumination. If these experiments continue to be successful, as I suspect they will, we'll have etheric street lamps before the end of the decade. Imagine lamps that burn twice as bright, 4 times as long. Oh, this will change everything.
And if it's like anything else we've seen, it'll put a lot of people out of work, too.
What is it you do here exactly?
Oh, several things. This is the main hub of the city's Department of Illumination. It's really just a grandiose way of saying that this is where all affairs related to street lamps and public lighting are taken care of. But in addition to sending out lamplighters or mechanics to repair damaged lamps, we also do research into new methods of illumination. That's what my personal specialization is. I help develop and test more efficient ways of lighting our streets. I guess you could consider me a modern-day Prometheus. Yes.
More like an everyday pretentious.
Definitely.
Your cooperation is much appreciated.
Happy to help.
So, there's nothing bad about that person. That one, the lamplighter. Barely. Why was he killed? Why did he need justice brought down on him? Still go back there. Interesting. Let's go investigate Burley Caus's apartment.
The number is a bit faded. Is this 2B or is it not 2B? That's the question. And I thought the housekeeping in my apartment was bad. Apartment 2A. This is the place. There doesn't seem to be anyone at home. There doesn't seem to be anyone at home.
We'll ask the neighbor.
Yeah? May I help you, young man?
Hello, madam. My name is Miles Fordham, and I'm a private investigator. I have some questions about your neighbor.
You mean my former neighbor?
Yes. In any case, I'd appreciate it if you could help me with some information.
Nah, I don't think so. The last person to ask me about him was that awful policeman. I don't want to have to go through that again.
I'm sorry you had a bad experience, but I can assure you I won't give you a hard time.
Well, that's easy for you to say, but actions speak louder than words.
Uh-oh. I think I know where this is going.
Is there anything I can do for you then?
Well, since you asked,
Well, you pushed.
my layabout husband is out wasting our retirement fund with his drinking. Go find him and bring him back here. Then maybe we can talk.
Oh, wonderful. Now we're playing babysitter.
You'll find him at the Silent Raven. It's not too far from here.
Yes, I know it.
Good. My husband's name is Kurt Williamson. You tell him his wife Ethel wants him home at once.
I'll do my best, Mrs. Williamson.
They're all a bit bossy in this game, aren't they? Let me save that. Silent Raven. Let's keep going with this. The sketch is still there and the drain cover hasn't been put back. Seeing if there's anything new, let's talk to the barmaid again.
Excuse me, barmaid?
Hi, what do you need?
Do you know anything about the man sitting at that table over there?
Not really. He comes in here a few times a week, but he mostly keeps to himself. I see his type all the time, though. Older, probably retired and looking to escape his home life. I feel sorry for him, but that sort of customer is my bread and butter.
Are you familiar with the Justice Killer?
What is that, some fancy drink concoction?
No. It's the name that's been given to a serial murderer here in the Chum.
I see. Never heard of him. And if he's smart, he won't show his face around here.
You know, this place suddenly feels just a little bit safer.
How are things here now that the election hubbub has subsided?
Oh, right. I thought you looked familiar. You were the one in here asking about the fellow who was killed.
That's right.
Well, there hasn't been too much excitement since then. I've hardly had to toss anyone out, which is a right shame.
Why's that?
Kicking out a rowdy customer shakes things up a bit on a quiet night like this. Gets the blood flowing, you know?
What would a customer have to do to warrant being thrown out?
My general rule is if they're being a nuisance, they're out. If they try to pick a fight or are just being generally disrespectful, it's a one-way ticket to the pavement outside.
Good to know.
Well, you're gonna have to do that for the husband.
What was it you said a person had to do to get thrown out?
Pick a fight or just be bothersome enough that other customers complain about him.
Right. Thanks. I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been pretty quiet in the streets of late, hasn't it, Bertie?
You noticed too? I thought it was just me.
I'm not complaining, mind you. It's nice to be able to go out and about without stepping over half the chum in the process.
Indeed. What do you reckon's the reason for it?
Not a clue. Can't be illness. We'd have heard something by now. Whatever it is, let's just hope it keeps up.
Strange name, Bertie for the female.
I never thought I'd see that bridge finished in my lifetime.
Excuse me, are you Kurt Williamson?
That's right. Who are you?
Miles Fordham. I'm a private investigator.
Hey, Rusty.
Oh, yeah? What is it you want from me?
Ethel sent me to tell you she wants you to come home right away.
I should have known. I can't get away for more than a few hours before she's put the entire city on high alert. How much of my retirement fund did she waste on getting you to come down here?
I'm only doing this because I need some information.
The joke's on you, then. You can just go back and tell her I'll come home when I'm damn well ready.
Why is it you're so averse to returning home?
I enjoy going out and having a good time. Is that so wrong?
Your wife told me she doesn't like you spending your money on drink.
What I spend my money on is none of her business, and even less of yours. What's this world coming to when a man can't even drink in peace without all his affairs shouted from the rooftops?
You know, this whole situation seems awfully familiar.
Listen, Mr. Williamson, I think I know what you're going through.
Oh, yeah?
My wife and I were having a rough patch. I wasn't being honest with her, and it nearly drove us apart.
But you managed to fix things.
Yes, I was fortunate. I did the right thing before it was too late.
And what did you do?
Yeah, we better not say about the dead partner.
It was simple. I just communicated honestly and openly with her. I told her what was wrong and how I was feeling. And you know what? She listened. Have you ever told Ethel why you like going out?
No. I assumed she wouldn't understand. I really wish she would come out with me, but I know she'd never agree.
How do you know? Have you actually talked to her about this?
Well, no.
Well, then maybe you should. If she knew you wanted company, she might just give it a try.
You know, I never thought of it like that. I'm going to go home right now and tell her. And if she refuses, well, at least I asked, right?
That's the spirit.
Thanks for the advice, friend. I really do appreciate it.
Not bad. I have to say, I'm impressed.
Okay, let's go talk to this Ethel. See if she's got anything for us to say. To hear. I am going to save it there then. In case we muck up.
Ah, Mr. Fordham, thank you so much for getting Kurt back home.
Don't mention it. Now, would you be willing to answer some questions?
No.
Well, yes, of course.
I was expecting that, no.
Tell me what you know about Burley Cause.
He and his wife hadn't been living next door very long, maybe 4 months or so. But I didn't talk to either of them very much. They weren't interested in being neighborly, I guess. It's a shame, really. Maybe if we had known one another better, something like this could have been prevented.
What happened on the day Mr. Cause was killed?
I was here, at home, doing my knitting as usual. All of a sudden, I heard a loud bang. It sounded like a gunshot. I went and knocked on Mrs. Cause's door, but there was no answer. I did notice a smell, though, like flowers. Something seemed wrong, so I decided to report the incident to the police. Not long after that, an officer showed up and started asking questions. Awful man he was, so rude.
That'll be Snelling.
Him, but I forgot his
Oh no,
name.
Parsons.
It started with a P.
Parsons?
Yes, that's him. He called for some more officers and they got into the apartment. That's when I found out Mr. Cause had been murdered.
Where is Mrs. Cause now?
I don't know, with her mother maybe. That's usually how it goes.
You wouldn't happen to know where that is, would you?
Afraid not, but there is one other thing.
Yes?
Don't say I told you this, but, well, I used to hear the two of them through my wall. I tried ignoring it since it's really none of my business, but it became impossible.
What was it you heard?
Especially with like glass held up against the wall.
They had a happy marriage. They'd have awful fights a couple times a week.
What would they fight about?
Oh, all sorts of things. The worst one was when she discovered he was going to a brothel. I think he might have hit her on a few occasions, too, but I can't be certain. I hope you don't think me a horrible old gossip, but I thought you might like to know.
Not at all. I'm glad you told me.
Let's ask about the Justice
Are you familiar
Killer.
with the Justice Killer?
You mean the serial killer who's been killing men in Chumley?
That's the one.
Nah, never heard of him.
What?
I'm just pulling your leg, Mr. Fordham.
I like this one. She's got spirit.
Unfortunately, I only know what I've read in the Gazette, but it's scary to think some maniac is loose on the streets doing such terrible things. And with Kurt going out by himself for hours at a time, oh, I don't like it one bit.
How long have you been living here?
Well, Kurt and I moved in shortly after we were married, so it's been about 34 years.
Goodness, that's a long time to be living in one place.
Yes, well, the building may be a bit run down, and it gets colder than cold in the winter, but The rent has always been cheap. You can't really ask for much more than that.
I appreciate your time, Mrs. Williamson.
Yeah, we
Have
got
a
quite a
good
lot
day,
out
Mr.
of her,
Fordham.
so that's good. What did we get? Clues. So that's maybe why there was justice. Who would have known that? Apart from her and Kurt. Maybe Ethel. Ethel's maybe going around killing them all. It's a Parliament bridge construction.
Well, that doesn't look good.
Why? Oh, it's broken.
This place sure is big. I wonder if they actually make anything useful.
Employee area.
Excuse me, sir. Are you in charge here?
Unfortunately. Who are you? This area isn't open to the public.
I'm Miles Fordham, and I'm a private investigator looking into the murder of one of your workers.
A private investigator, eh? And maybe you can help me out.
I'll do what I can, but I'll need to ask you some questions, Mr.
Mims. Sanford Mims. Go ahead, but make it snappy.
What can you tell me about Hannibal Kirkland? A former employee here?
Listen, I've got a lot on my mind right now.
I understand, but it's important to my investigation that you tell me what you know about him.
I'm sure it is, but as you can see, I've got a lot to deal with right now.
Well, he's no help. Maybe you can figure out a way to help him help us.
Let's ask about the iron mill.
What happened to your iron mill?
What's it look like? The damn thing went and got blown up.
Was it in disrepair?
Of course not. All my machinery is sound, checked and serviced regularly. This is the work of those goddamn Redites. I'm sure of it.
What makes you certain the explosion was the Redites doing?
Take a look, boy. The whole mill got taken out. Even if this had been a mechanical failure, which it wasn't, the explosion would have been contained to a single part of the machine. This couldn't have been anything other than sabotage.
Have you had problems with the Redites before?
They've sent anonymous letters, but this is the first time they've actually carried out one of their threats.
You're absolutely sure this was sabotage, then?
Yes. How many times have I got to tell you that? Listen, you said you were an investigator, right? So find out who did this to my machine. If you do, I'll help you out with whatever else you wanted to ask me about.
Looks like we haven't got much of a choice.
Nobody's willing to
Seems
just
pretty
answer a
upset
few
about his
questions.
machine.
I'll see what I can do. Are you familiar with the Justice Killer?
The who?
He's a serial murderer who's killed 5 men over the past 4 months.
Is that right? Never heard of him.
He may have killed one of your men. Weren't the police here asking about it?
Oh, is that what that was all about? I know they came poking around here a while back, but I was busy dealing with other things.
It's nice to see the lines of communication here are wide open.
How long have you been the foreman here?
Sometimes I think it's been too long. Things were so much easier before we got these machines. They keep saying they're supposed to improve our lives, but they've been nothing but trouble. I've already had 5 of my best men get mangled by some of them. And then there's these damn fools blowing things up. My hair wasn't this gray 5 years ago, you know. I swear one of these days, I'm just going to pack it all up and retire. Let someone else deal with these damn things.
Okay, so we can't ask him about Hannibal.
I'll be going now.
Be careful on your way out.
Let's go to the employee area if we can.
Hey, that area is for workers only.
My apologies.
Oh, we can look at the iron mill.
Completely ruined. Whoever sabotaged this knew what they were doing. This place sure is big. I wonder if they actually make anything useful. Completely ruined.
Okay, so we'll have to find some clues elsewhere for that. Talk to the Redites. Let's go to the bridge construction site. Safe for only 25 men at once. Do not walk close together, nor jump, run, or trot. Oh, they're building the bridge, look.
Huh, they seem to be making pretty decent progress. I wonder if it would be any fun to tie yourself to that thing and go for a few spins. Safe for only 25 men at once. I used to draw the line at 2.
Excuse me.
Hey, what are you doing here? This is a construction area.
I'm Miles Fordham, a private investigator. I'm looking into the murder of a man who used to work here.
Who? Bowditch?
That's right.
I got nothing to say about him, and neither do the rest of the boys.
They obviously didn't like him.
I've only got a few questions. If you could just...
I've got nothing to say to you. You want to know more about Bowditch? Go talk to his little woman.
Where can I find her?
Ruin Coffee House. She's the serving girl. Now get out of here. If something falls on you, I'm not gonna take responsibility.
Short and to the point. I can respect that, even if it's extremely unhelpful.
Okay, so we can go to the coffee house where we've been before.
Not much of a hurry to clean up in here, are they?
They look
Begging your
tiny.
pardon, miss.
How can I help you, sir?
I understand you were involved with Ennis Bowditch.
Was involved, yes. I haven't spoken to him in nearly 2 months.
Oh, were you not aware of his death then?
What? Ennis is dead?
Well, this is awkward.
Indeed. I'm sorry to have to be the bearer of bad news.
How did it happen?
I'm afraid he was murdered.
Murdered? By who? And why?
Those are exactly the questions I'm trying to answer myself.
Oh, I see. Are you a detective?
A private investigator, yes.
Well, I'll answer what I can. If it helps any, that is.
I'm certain it will. What was your relationship with Mr. Bowditch like?
Oh, well, it was nice at first. He was a proper gentleman-like. But then something changed.
Oh?
It's like I told Ruby. I think he might have got hit on the head at work because he seemed to be a completely different person. He'd get angry for no reason. He even... Well, that bit's not important. At first, I thought he was just going through some rough times, but after a while I realized he'd changed for the worse. So I broke things off. He wasn't too happy about it, but I wasn't going to stick with a man like that.
Ruby?
Could you tell me more about this Ruby you mentioned?
Ruby? Oh, I've known her since we were little. She's my dearest friend. There's not a secret between us. She was a great help when I kicked Dennis to the curb. I'm lucky to know her. Everyone should have someone like Ruby in their life.
Ruby.
Are you familiar with the Justice Killer?
Justice Killer? Is that some kind of pesticide?
No, it isn't. Never mind. You've been working here for quite a while, haven't you?
I have, yes. Coming up on 3 years. Been a real pleasure getting to know all the regulars. They've come to be sort of like a second family. By the way, whatever happened with you and your lady friend?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, that nice lady you met in here a couple of times. Did it work out between the two of you?
Oh, that? No, that was strictly business.
That was Upton.
Right. Well, if you see her, tell her I said hello.
I'll let you get back to work.
Thank you, sir.
No real clues there. Speak to the servant girl, that's what we did, so why... Can we talk to you again?
Busy.
No.
No point.
We haven't triggered something, we need to talk to somebody else.
All that metal. Give me an old-fashioned...
Can't go through there? No. We'll talk to Upton. Go to the House of the Parliament. Let's go to the House of the Parliament.
Fordham, what brings you to this delightful spectacle?
Hello, Edwards. I'm investigating the Justice Killer. I believe I've got a very promising lead.
I heard an officer mention new orders from Snelling, but I thought he was just pulling my leg. Feel free to have a look around. I'm just writing up the notes from my initial examination of the body, so I'll be happy to share my findings.
Good. I'll just get started then.
What on earth is he wearing on the front?
Nothing but a bunch of boring documents. You'd think he could have at least been considerate enough to keep something scandalous in here. Looks pretty fresh. I wonder what the killer uses to write with. These appear to be books on cryptography. I suppose everyone needs a hobby. No signs of forced entry that I can see. The murderer didn't come in through this window. Leave it to a politician to hang a portrait of himself in his own office. Nothing has been written in yet for next month. Curious. Nothing has been written in yet for next month. Curious. Odd. The page for this month has been torn out. You suppose Edwards might know anything about that?
So there was probably an appointment on that date. The initials of the name. The person that came, who was probably the killer.
The former Percival McDonough, being a good politician.
Got a moment, Edwards?
Of course. What's on your mind?
So, what was found at the crime scene?
A dead body.
Edwards.
Hey, just trying to lighten the mood a bit. Anyway, there was also the word justice written in blood, as you can see on the floor there.
Is that all?
What more do you need? All the pieces are in place. This is the work of the Justice Killer.
What did your examination of the body turn up?
Apparent cause of death was a single gunshot to the head, exactly like all the other victims. The bullet is still lodged in his brain. I'll remove it once I transport the body back to the mortuary.
Anything else?
No personal effects of note, just a folded up piece of paper in his breast pocket. It's blank, so the police weren't interested. I assume you aren't either.
Never assume, Edwards. I'll take it if you don't mind.
Be my guest.
Did the police manage to learn anything during their investigation?
Not much beyond what I've already told you. I think they were planning on speaking to the victim's wife, though.
Did you get the address?
I did, as a matter of fact. 1820 Kent Place.
Now we get to deal with the grieving widow. Hopefully the officers who delivered the news got the worst of it.
Did you find an Easter lily anywhere?
An Easter lily?
Yes. The Justice Killer leaves one at every crime scene.
Is that right? I never noticed.
Neither did anyone else, apparently.
So how does leaving a lily at the scene of the crime figure into all of this?
I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think it might be important to understanding his motive.
Well, be sure to let me know if you do figure it out. The thought process of killers is a twisted, curious thing.
What's your take on this whole Justice Killer situation?
It's giving me a lot of extra work, let me tell you. We haven't had a serial murderer in a long time. Not since that fellow who was poisoning people about 10 years ago.
Ah, yes. Gascon Gould. Now there was a case.
Any theories or insights regarding the killer's motive or identity?
That's not really my specialty. If you want to get into that psychology stuff, you're better off talking to someone like Snelling.
Or trash bins are getting emptied if you hear any noises in the background.
Does it feel good to be out of the office?
As long as I have the chance to examine a body and learn something in the process, I don't care where I am. Though I do admit a preference to working in my own environment. Fieldwork can be a bit uncertain. There's so much more potential for contamination, especially with those clumsy officers trouncing about groping everything. Present company excluded, of course.
Edwards, did you notice McDonough's desk calendar?
I did. This month has been torn out. I asked the officers investigating the scene, and they had no idea what happened to it.
So it wasn't found in this room?
That's right. My theory is that the killer took it.
Which means there was probably something incriminating written on it. If only there was some way of knowing what it was.
Miles, have you forgotten the oldest trick
Yeah.
in the book?
Pencil.
Just find a pencil and you'll have that information in no time.
Edwards, do you have a pencil I might borrow?
Of course. Take this one.
Thank you.
I was thinking
That's all
that.
for now, Edwards.
Good luck with your investigation.
Let's have a look at the calendar again.
A classic trick. Let's see if it works.
Oh, right. It's quite good, isn't it? Dates and times coming through. There's Ruby. There are T. Shockley is. Oh, is it good enough, or do we have to do it darker?
Aha! McDonough met with this person the night of the murder. I'll bet 500 crowns it's a false name, but at least it's something.
Right, how do I get out? How do we get out? There's Ruby.
Intriguing. I wonder if this is the same Ruby the girl at the coffee house mentioned.
Okay, so we've got some new clues. We need to find out who Ruby is. Blank piece of paper. See
No
if
time to waste
no.
with further.
He's got nothing else to say. You can go talk to wife.
Ahem.
What? Who are you?
I'm Miles Fordham, private investigator. Your butler just announced me.
Oh, of course. Forgive me. I was just, well, never mind. Please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Fordham.
Thank you, Mrs. McDonough.
That's just our quick
Just a painting of some boring old aristocrat. This one looks like a Lady Camilla Prudence Wigglewaddle the Grey.
Wigglewaddle.
I think I'll call this one Lord Edmund Henry Lickspittle the Elder. They look expensive, but I bet they're totally worthless. I feel sorry for the sucker who has to clean them. Lord Alfred Edward Shufflebottom the Wise comes to mind when looking at this one. Surely this one was called Lady Felicity Euphemia Beaversnatch the Simple.
Beaversnatch?
I appreciate you seeing me, Mrs. McDonough. I know you must be going through a difficult time right now.
What exactly is it you want from me, Mr. Fordham? I already spoke to the police about my husband's murder.
I just have a few questions of my own.
Oh, very well.
What can you tell me about your husband?
I'll tell you the same thing I told the police, Mr. Fordham. Percival was one of the hardest working members of Parliament. He took his job extremely seriously. The recent election caused him a terrible amount of consternation, as I'm sure it did most people. He took Atwood's loss rather hard.
Did you see much of him?
I beg your pardon?
Surely someone with such an important position in government could find themselves consumed by their work. Did he spend much time at home?
He made it a point to come home and have dinner with me every night, even if he had to return to the office afterwards.
And did that happen often?
At least 3 or 4 times in a week, yes. He'd stay in his office working late into the night. As I said, he was very dedicated to his role.
Sounds to me like she's quite dedicated to hers, too.
Did your husband have any enemies?
He was a politician, Mr. Fordham. Half the city hated him.
Did he ever receive any kind of threats against his life?
None that I was ever made aware of. I have no idea who could have killed him, let alone who could have gotten into his office to do it. He hadn't told me about any meetings or appointments
I
this
think it's
week
this
either.
Ruby person.
Was it his custom to inform you of his work affairs?
Oh, well, I've always taken an interest in my husband's work. He'd often mention initiatives he was working on or people he was meeting, that sort of thing. Nothing sensitive or confidential, you understand. Just conversation about his day.
Can you think of any reason why your husband would have been murdered?
Not really. He was a vocal opponent of the construction of the Gascogne-Chumley Bridge, but I hardly think that would have been sufficient reason to drive someone to murder.
Why is that?
Well, it's just a bridge, isn't it? There are plenty of other ways to get to Chumley.
I meant, why was he opposed to it?
Oh, because the amount of money required to build it is exorbitant. Public funds should be used on roads and buildings that are falling apart. What's the point of having something shiny and new if everything around it is in disrepair?
How are you feeling, Mrs. McDonough?
My husband of 42 years was shot in his office. How do you think I feel?
Tactful as always, Fordham. How do you do it?
My apologies. Perhaps that wasn't the most appropriate question. Is there anything I can do to help?
You can start by finding the monster who murdered Percival.
Are you familiar with the art of cryptography, Mrs. McDonough?
What an odd question.
It's just I noticed several books on the subject in your husband's office.
Oh, well, yes. Percival was interested in cryptography
So he
and
probably
secret
had a
messages
secret
and
message
the
written on the
like.
blank
He
bit
would
of paper.
sometimes leave me coded notes when we first began courting many years ago.
What kind of notes?
Oh, now, Mr. Fordham, those were private. But Percival got a thrill out of knowing I was the only one who could read them. Sometimes he would write them using a special ink that would only appear when the paper was heated. I can't remember the last time he did that, though.
Do you know anyone named Shackley?
No, I've never heard that name before. Why?
I saw your husband had a meeting scheduled with him shortly before his murder.
That can't be right. He didn't tell me about that. He always told me about his meetings.
It was written on his office calendar, clear as day.
As I said, I don't know who that person is. Why wouldn't Percival have told me about their meeting?
Why indeed?
Ruby.
Are you familiar with someone named Ruby?
I can't say I am. Who is it?
Just a name that's come up in my investigation.
Sounds like the name of a trollop, or perhaps a dog.
Have you heard of the Justice Killer?
That was the name the police mentioned when they told me about Percival's murder. It's absolutely terrifying to think that one sick person could be capable of such evil. Why is he called the Justice Killer? What justice was done by murdering my husband?
I'm afraid I can't answer that right now, Mrs. McDonough, but I intend to find out. Those are all the questions I have for now, Mrs. McDonough.
All right, Mr. Fordham.
Eat up the bit of paper.
If this actually works, I'll eat my hat.
Dearest Mary, words cannot express the regret and sorrow I feel for how I acted last night. I swore to myself I would never harm you again after the last time, but I have failed us both. It is my deepest hope that you can forgive me and trust that I will never let this monster out again. Percival.
Well, I'll be damned.
Is she Mary?
Can we talk some more, Mrs. McDonough?
I suppose so, yes.
Do you know anything about this letter?
I'm afraid I don't have my spectacles. What is it?
The coroner found it in your husband's pocket. He gave it to me because he thought it was blank. But after you told me about your husband's propensity for writing secret messages, I decided to try exposing the paper to heat. Allow me to read it to you. Dearest Mary, words cannot express the regret and sorrow I feel for how I acted last night. I swore to myself I would never harm you again after the last time, but I have failed us both. It is my deepest hope that you can forgive me and trust that I will never allow this monster out again.
I see. May I have that letter, Mr. Fordham?
I'm afraid I have to keep it for now. It's evidence.
I suppose that does make sense.
Mrs. McDonough, did Percival mistreat or abuse you?
He wasn't a bad man, Mr. Fordham. I wouldn't have married him if he was. It's just the stress of his responsibilities would sometimes oppress him. I would try and offer comfort, soothe his nerves.
As well.
There were a few instances where he lost control of his
The
passions.
voiceovers are really good.
Did he ever hit you?
Voice acting.
He did.
How many times did this happen?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe 2 or 3. You don't exactly count these things.
What a bastard. Maybe it serves him right for getting shot.
Thank you for your candor, Mrs. McDonough.
Can we please talk about something else?
Those are all the questions I have for now, Mrs. McDonough.
All right, Mr. Fordham.
It's well lip synced as well. Okay, so we still need to find this Ruby. It's probably her. They probably talk to her and then she goes out and deals justice. Or go to the police station. Talk to Snelling.
Fordham, how goes the investigation?
I'm making some headway.
Is that right? I certainly hope so for your sake.
Chief Jacobs. Now there was a leader. The rumor was always that the chief kept a bottle of something in a secret compartment in this cabinet. In Snelling's case, it's probably just water. Every book and file in there is organized to perfection. I'll bet Snelling gets flustered if anything is even a millimeter out of place. You should bump into the side when he's not looking.
Chief Snelling?
Yes, Fordham?
What information do you have on the Justice Killer?
Clearly not as much as you.
I see how this is gonna go.
Well, what do you have?
A list of 5 victims, some information on each of them, and no clear idea what connects them. Until your discovery of the lily at each scene, that was where we stood. While I doubt this discovery will do much to aid in tracking him down, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt.
The hair.
Do you know anything about Percival McDonough?
He's a member of Parliament. I believe his constituency is somewhere in central Kingsland. From the reports I've gotten, McDonough led a rather unassuming life for a politician. He is, however, the first victim who didn't live in Chumley. Either there's a link we've missed, or the killer is changing his method. Then again, since you seem so confident in your abilities to resolve this matter, I assume you'll provide an explanation.
Count on it. What do you know about the Justice Killer's previous victims?
Only what's in their files. All working men from Chumley. That's the only link.
You didn't look further into their personal lives? Maybe they had some social connection.
As I said, the detectives found nothing. You seem to think you can do better, so I'll leave it up to you.
You have to wonder how much more thorough the department's investigations would have been if the 4 men were all rich like McDonough.
So I see the department is still running like a well-oiled machine.
It is, in fact. But I'm sure Upton has kept you well informed of our activities. Incidentally, the woman accused in the Harris kidnapping is set to testify in court today.
That's the one we...
Linda Walker's trial is today? That was fast.
We investigated that one.
Sometimes the wheels of justice grind slowly. Sometimes they spin out of control. She'll be taking the stand within the hour. If you care to hear her for yourself, best get going soon.
Have you got any information on the Redites?
The Redites? That ridiculous gang of troublemakers? Yes, I have some information. What's your interest in them?
A witness is refusing to speak with me unless I can figure out who sabotaged his iron mill.
I see. All I can offer is a list of names of known Redites along with their last known whereabouts. But I remind you that you only have until tomorrow afternoon before this indulgence expires, and I throw you in jail. This seems like a waste of time.
That's my decision to make.
Very well. I'll give you the list when you're ready to leave.
Listen, about Leger's death.
I don't want to hear it, Fordham. What happened, happened. Nothing you can say is going to change my opinion on the matter.
And if I manage to find the man responsible?
The man responsible is standing before me. Even if you manage to find the culprit you let escape, it isn't going to bring Leger back from the dead.
But it will bring closure to the matter.
If that thought is what allows you to sleep at night, then so be it.
What makes him think you sleep at night?
We ask him about himself. He always got a bit.
Enjoying your new position, Snelling?
Reaping the rewards for years of hard work and dedicated service. A gratifying feeling you'll never be able to experience.
Oh, I get my gratification in other ways.
I'm sure you do, and I'd honestly rather not know about them.
I need to get back to my investigation.
Yes, time is not on your side, Fordham. Here you are. This is the most recent list of known Redites.
This is a lot of names.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to track down this saboteur, it might be best to retire to a more tranquil environment. Fancy a trip back to Upton's?
Let's go to Upton's, like he said. Oh, we've got the court case. We should go hear that.
Remind me, Miles, why are we here again? Is this for your own personal satisfaction, or did you expect her to have some useful information?
Shh! Mrs. Linda Walker, you stand accused of kidnapping Charles Harris. What have you to say in your defense?
I had to see if I could speak with my son Alexander again.
Yes. According to your initial statement, you seem to believe that the Harris child is the reincarnation of your own deceased son.
All the evidence was there. I thought it had to be him.
And in regards to the execution of your plan, you secretly administered a soporific drug to your friend and the Harris family nanny, Mrs. Henrietta Davis? Is that correct?
Yes. I felt terrible about doing it, but there was no other way.
According to your journal, you used a mixture of
We've
chamomile
been watching the
valerian, instructed by
Swedish
a
drama.
Samuel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Samuel is a friend of mine. He works at the docks, and he knows
Thicker
all
Than
about
Blood,
plants.
I think it's called.
I asked him what the best combination of herbs would be to put someone in a deep sleep.
So it was your idea, and not his?
Yes, that's right. He only told me about the plants. He's quite the expert. Why, you should see his collection of Easter lilies.
Ooh, did she just say what I think she said?
Now then, let's turn our attention to the night in question.
Interesting. This Samuel person might be worth looking into, although we can't waste time searching the docks with just a first name. I'd make a note of it, just in case it becomes relevant later. All right, I've had enough of this courtroom. Let's get back out there. Time's running out.
We've also started watching the latest series of The Expanse. I think we're at episode 5. First episode was really slow. It's got better. So frequent arguments, wages. Back to our house for that. Samuel at the docks. Okay.
Right, this should be a quiet enough spot to concentrate on finding that saboteur. I just hope Upton doesn't mind you turning her parlor into your own personal study.
I'm sure she'll have no objection.
Where's Upton anyway?
Now, let's have a look at that list again.
Sabotage. Nobody called Percival.
This might be who we're looking for, but it also might not be.
We could pay him a visit. Who knows? We might get lucky.
Oh. Last known whereabouts deceased.
It's possible that this is who we're looking for, but without some way to be absolutely sure, we're in danger of wasting precious time.
I'm not usually the gambling type, but a 1 in 3 chance doesn't strike me as the best odds.
If dead men could cause explosions, let's just say things would be a lot different. This clearly isn't the right suspect. This might be who we're looking for, but it also might not be.
No harm in paying him a visit, except losing time in our other investigation.
Unless Mr. McKee has escaped from prison, which I highly doubt, he's not our man. I think we can rule out Mr. Sullivan as a suspect. He's Western Vespucci's problem now.
Was that everything there? Let's see where we can go. Horace Wilson, Lucien, or Peyton. I wonder if we've only got so much time.
Well, well, who's this lovely specimen?
Allow me to introduce Peyton Ferguson, known Redite and prime suspect in a sabotage at the Thorbomb Ironworks. I picked him up and brought him straight to you.
Ooh, a saboteur. Just leave him to me and I'll make him feel right at home.
Please find the Justice Killer soon, Miles. Being Giles' prisoner is not my idea of a good time.
Right. I'll leave you to it then.
But did we just pick the right person straight away? Or we've just put somebody there. Let's go talk to the Ironworks and see if they'll help. Maybe we got the wrong person.
Mr. Mims, a word if you wouldn't mind?
Yes, what is it?
I found the person responsible for sabotaging your iron mill.
Oh yeah?
His name is Peyton Ferguson. He's currently at the Bow Street Jail.
Hey, not bad. I owe you one, Detective.
He certainly does.
What can you tell me about Hannibal Kirkland?
Good worker. Mostly kept to himself. Real shame what happened to him.
Do you know if anyone here disliked Kirkland?
Enough to want him dead? Nah. There's the occasional scrap, but everyone around here gets along for the most part. Like I said, he mostly kept to himself. Head down, didn't bother nobody.
Do you know what he did outside of work?
No idea. I only ever saw him here.
You said Kirkland was a good worker?
One of my best. I knew something was up when he didn't show up for a couple of days. Don't think he'd ever missed work before.
Did he have any personal effects he kept here, or an area where he worked?
He had a cabinet downstairs in the workers' changing area, just like everyone else. You can go take a look if you want, but I don't think the police found anything. Kirkland's cabinet is the third one from the left.
I'll be
Third
going
from the
now.
left.
Be careful on your way out.
Right, let's go to employee area. Third from the left.
At least having a heater down here manages to keep things warm. I remember the changing rooms at the police station were always ice cold.
Gents, please stop shaving in the showers. The cleaning lady almost tore my head off. She says the drains can't take the hair.
Sounds like there's someone in there. If you weren't so bashful, I'd suggest joining in. You could certainly use it.
1, 2, 3. Oh. How do we know which code it is?
Just another unmarked storage cabinet.
5. Was there any other numbers? Okay. Numbers on here? 5. 1, 2, 3. Think. It was just a guess.
Empty.
Good guess.
That's disappointing.
Not completely empty. There's something at the bottom here.
The Gilded Lily. All for fine ladies in waiting, all sizes, petite, skinny, buxom, special. Present this handbill and 50 shillings for the normal £1 treat. Petticoat Lane.
It seems our friend Hannibal had a few extracurricular activities after all.
Gilded lily, huh? That's a bit suspicious.
Who knew such a pretty flower could cause such an inconvenience? The answer to that question is me, in case you were wondering. Flowers bring nothing but trouble. Trouble and snot.
That's enough, Bill. We need to get a move on.
Right. It's, that was a lucky guess, 556. Don't need to talk to him. There's the Gilded Lily.
Well, hello there, handsome.
I shall have to stop
Welcome
shortly.
to the Gilded Lily. Come over here and tell me what kind of pleasure it is you're looking for.
I'm afraid I'm here for business, not pleasure.
Oh, well, that's just a shame, isn't it?
I'm Miles Fordham, private investigator. And you are?
You can call me Serafina. I'm in charge of this establishment.
You won't mind if I take a look around or ask you some questions?
As long as you keep to the front room, you can do whatever you like. Beyond that, you're gonna have to pay.
Maybe it's best if you leave this part out when you tell Adelaide about the case later. Oh, my virgin eyes! I'm not too familiar with places like this, but I believe that's where the fun happens, if you've got the crowns for it. What a charming statue. Wouldn't she get cold fetching water in that state of undress? Looks nervous. Wonder if this is his first time. You certainly won't find art like that at the National Gallery.
No. Go that way. Can we talk to her?
May I ask you a few questions, Serafina?
Of course you may, but I can't guarantee the answers will be free.
Do you know anything about the Justice Killer?
I'm afraid not, dear. I don't normally associate with killers.
Are you sure you don't know anything? He's the reason I'm here.
Well, I can assure you I know nothing about your murderer. If the trail has led you here, it's surely just coincidence.
Yeah, she seems awfully certain of that. It's a good thing we don't believe in coincidences.
What was her name?
Did you have a man named Hannibal Kirkland as a client?
I make it my practice not to learn the names of any customers here, Mr. Fordham. I hate to disappoint anyone who comes through those doors, but discretion is paramount in this business.
Well, at least you know you can trust these women with your secrets.
This is a lovely establishment you have, and such a nice name, too.
Thank you, my dear. It wasn't always called the Gilded Lily, though. We were formerly known as Le Maison de Tolérance.
What inspired the name change?
That's a bit of a long story. Not worth getting into.
How long have you been operating?
Going on 25 years. Business has been good. There's a reason this is the world's oldest profession, you know.
So, how did you get into this business?
Like many of the other girls, it was the best of some bad options. I had no interest in being beholden to a husband. I may be a fallen woman, but better to fly and fall than to have your wings clipped.
Do you enjoy the work?
It's a job like any other, Mr. Fordham. There are good days and there are bad days. But my girls are my family. We take care of each other. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Thank you for your time.
Of course, my dear.
What was her name? Madame Serafina. Wouldn't be Ruby.
I think that room is reserved for paying customers. We won't be able to get back there without a good reason.
Can't use the flyer.
We've exhausted her knowledge. Looks nervous.
Okay, so we're not going to get anywhere else here. Which is a shame. We need to find out more about this Ruby.
Begging your pardon, miss.
How can I help you, sir?
This friend of yours, Ruby, did she know an MP named Percival McDonough?
I'm not sure. Ruby knows a lot of men.
Is that so?
Well, no, I don't mean... It's just... Oh, damn it all, me and my big mouth. She'll have my guts for garters now.
It's all right. No one's in trouble. But I think I'd like to speak with Ruby. Could you tell me where I can find her?
No. You see, she moves around quite a lot. Never in the same place for more than a night or two.
Why?
Right. I think she's given us a clear picture of what Ruby does for a living. Normally, I'd be all for pressing this girl more until she cracks, but I like her. I think we'll be able to find Ruby without causing her more discomfort.
Well, thank you for the information. You've been very helpful.
I reckon
I'll let you get back to work.
Serafina is Ruby. Okay, Ruby, investigate the Gilded Lily. Right. I shall need to line things up there for today. So let me just see, find anybody to raid. If you have been enjoying what you've seen and don't already follow, a follow would be greatly appreciated. Channel out a lot. Going. See who's on. Bear's playing Wolfenstein 2. If anybody else has got any other options, I might just let's see what he's playing. I think I've played that. Right, let me do a raid here. Just now. Let's close this down. Right, so again, thank you all for watching. I shall be back on Saturday playing more of this game, the Lamplight City, and I shall be back on Sunday with Dwarf Fortress. So until then, you all take care and be safe, and hopefully catch you the next time. But in the meantime, let's go see Veru. Thanks for dropping in past and Rusty and below the stone. See Plabs is there as well. Tasty. Catch you all the next time. Thank you for the cheer and the bits. Here we go.